Now, CBS News correspondent David Martin on assignment for 60 Minutes.
The hottest thing in police work these days is the Taser, a device which sends painful jolts of electricity into the human body, throwing muscles into uncontrollable spasms. Police see it as a whole new way of controlling people without injuring either themselves or the suspect. Frequently, the mere sight of a Taser will convince a criminal to give up without a fight. It's so effective, police are sometimes too quick to use it, subjecting people to excruciating pain for no good reason. Some have even died after being hit by a Taser. Whatever you think of Taser after watching this story, you better get used to it. Taser is now used by more than 16,000 law enforcement agencies in the U.S. It all started when two brothers, Rick and Tom Smith, founded Taser International and set out to corner the stun gun market.
The story will continue in a moment.
We believe in what we are doing. We have changed the world. Very few people can say that.
By Tom Smith's count, more than 500,000 law enforcement officers in the United States now carry Tasers. He and his brother Rick have taken what began as a backyard experiment and built it into a policeman's weapon of choice, a device which uses electricity to subdue unruly suspects without having to resort to the blunt force of a billy club or the deadly force of a firearm.
The idea of using electricity to incapacitate at its core is frankly a beautiful and simplistic idea that rather than causing death or injury to someone, if we can just temporarily take away control of their body and get them under control, it's about as nonviolent as you could get.
The Taser uses compressed gas to fire two small darts attached to copper wires. When they pierce the skin, the electric current flows through the body, seizing up the muscles and sending the suspect crashing to the ground, screaming in pain.
This is a whole new device. It's a whole new way to control people.
Jeffrey Alpert has written what to date is the definitive study of Taser use for the National Institute of Justice.
When used properly, a Taser is a very effective tool in law enforcement.
Well, then I guess the question is, do police use a Taser properly?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Alpert's study found instances of what he calls lazy cop syndrome, using the Taser instead of proper police procedures.
So the Taser is now the go-to weapon?
Yes, sir. We see very often that Taser is what officers turn to very quickly now in an encounter.
Are they using them too quickly?
Some are. Some are using them way too fast.
One of the police departments Alpert studied was Austin, Texas, where a police officer was suspended for 3 days after this traffic stop.
I have no idea why you are...
Step out of the vehicle. Take your seatbelt off. Step out of the vehicle.
The driver had been going 5 miles over the speed limit.
I have no idea.
Step to the back of the vehicle. Put your hands on the vehicle. Step to the back of the vehicle. Step.
Las Vegas was one of the first big city police departments to issue Tasers to cops on the beat. Marcus Martin, the department's chief Taser instructor, says that in the first year they were used more than twice as often as they are now.
When you consider in 2004 we had 573 uses, we're down to 247 at the end of 2010. So
does that say officers were too quick to reach for the Taser at first?
I can only be frank with you. I think there might have been those instances, but that's the same with any tool that comes along. Again, we have to go back and we have to train that out of those officers.
With all its high-roller entertainment and hard-party glitz, Las Vegas may be the only city in America where police end up in a standoff with a suicidal Elvis impersonator. And casualties are down on both sides. The number of suspects who had to be taken to the hospital after they were arrested has gone down every year since Taser was brought in, and so has the number of policemen injured.
Right now, Taser appears to be the best tool out there, and it's changed the face of police work forever.
That's a bold statement.
That is a bold statement.
Now, why do you make a statement like that?
There's a lot of misinformation out there, but the real information eventually does come out. The truth does come out that this person is alive today, and that person is alive today, or this police officer is not harmed today because of this less than lethal device.
The first Taser was invented by space scientist Jack Cover. He designed it to look like a flashlight, fired it using gunpowder, and named it for one of his science fiction heroes, the Thomas A. Swift electric rifle, Taser. The Smith brothers struck a deal with Cover, and then they re-engineered his weapon. They drew straws and went out in the backyard to take the first hits from their new improved Taser. First Tom, then Rick, standing in a pool of water. Today they run a worldwide business from their over-the-top headquarters in Scottsdale, Arizona, which the Smith brothers designed from the ground up as a corporate statement.
This is an iris scanner.
Identification is completed.
Allows access to the building without the need for keys.
You don't have those at the Pentagon, you know.
I did not know that, but we've got...
It is part fortress, part tribute to Star Trek.
We certainly, again, wanted that projection of high tech, that we're on a cutting edge. We're making things that are, right out of Hollywood. We're the wired version of a Star Trek phaser.
The Smith brothers may not have invented the Taser, but they certainly turned it into the household name it is today. They took a device that had been fired by gunpowder and converted it to compressed gas. That freed them from all the regulations which govern the use of firearms and turned Taser into a $100 million a year company. In the eyes of federal regulators, getting rid of the gunpowder converted Taser from a firearm to a run-of-the-mill consumer product. And that allowed the Smith brothers to corner the market.
It moved it from a regulated weapon to an unregulated tool that allowed not only police officers but civilians to use them without any kind of mandated training or with any kind of mandated rules.
The production line turns out 100,000 Tasers a year with a combination of one-of-a-kind technology and old-fashioned manual assembly, all the way down to attaching the darts to their wires. How much of a jolt does it put out?
It's putting out about 2.1 milliamps. It's a very, very low current. The battery that runs this is basically the same battery that would run a digital camera.
So while the voltage is high, the amount of electricity or current the Taser puts out is low. And that's the difference between being electrocuted and living to tell about it.
I'm not a huge fan.
Baltimore Police Commissioner Frederick Bealfield may be Taser's most reluctant customer.
I recognize, one, the utility of this device. It makes the public safer in a lot of situations. It has helped contribute in some measure to reductions of deadly force.
But you're not a fan.
On a personal level, no. I'm absolutely not a fan.
Bealfield is a third-generation cop who believes there are better ways than Taser to avoid the use of force.
If you don't emphasize the training, and that's a key component, and the oversight, the use of them, it could lead you down a path of over-dependence on that device. That's been a chief concern that I've had, that we don't substitute our basic responsibility to a shortcutted method of deploying a Taser to get people to comply.
And he believes that, even though the Baltimore Police Department has used Tasers for over 10 years.
Even now, less than 500 of the devices deployed across the whole police department. I have 2,800 sworn members.
What do the ones who don't get Taser think about it?
They're clamoring for them.
Officer James McCartan has carried a Taser for 3 years. Do they all want it?
I think everybody wants one, yes.
You know, they're not all going to get it. I just talked to the commissioner.
Oh, I got mine.
Sergeant Harvey Boblitz, who patrols Baltimore's Inner Harbor with its tourists and nightlife, has only used his once, but it frequently comes in handy.
The carrying it, the having it with you, is a big deterrent. Down here, you get large crowds, protests, maybe some of the clubs, maybe you get out of hand. They see it, they want to go. They don't want to play with it.
Taser is well known to the YouTube generation.
Folks.
Millions of people went online to watch the famous "Don't Tase Me, Bro" incident when a student disrupted a John Kerry event at the University of Florida in 2007.
Don't tase me, bro! I didn't do anything! Ow! Ow! Ow!
It looked like they had him under control.
Well, if those officers couldn't control him without using a Taser, they need to be retrained and they need to be disciplined.
Alpert calls this video of a distraught man refusing to go to the hospital a sad day for law enforcement. Do you ever look at a taser on the internet and say, no, that is not how you use a taser?
Yeah, there have been cases where you look at it and you go, boy, what were they thinking?
And then there are the tragic but rare cases like that of 17-year-old Darrell Turner, who in 2008 was fired for stealing snacks from the grocery store where he worked.
He's very upset. He thinks he's been treated unfairly.
John Burton is an attorney representing Turner's family in a lawsuit against Taser.
He'll push this display off the counter here.
Police were called.
Now here's an officer who's pulled his taser out already as he's walked in the store. Now you can see the laser sight of the taser on his chest, and now he's tased.
But Turner doesn't go down. The darts are too close together and don't incapacitate enough muscles. So the police officer keeps tasing him.
And now he is collapsed on the floor, and he never moves again. And I think the only explanation is that the electrical shocks from the taser device caused this young man to have cardiac arrest and die.
A jury agreed and awarded $10 million to Turner's family. A verdict Taser has asked the judge to set aside. Taser has been sued 192 times for allegedly causing injury or death and has lost only one other case. Because the Turner case is still in court, the Smith brothers won't talk about it. But in other cases, they argue strenuously against assuming the electric shock is the cause of death.
That's a common sense thing people jump to, but let me take the argument from a different angle.
What's wrong with common sense?
People tend to overreact and immediately want to pin it on the electricity because it's something they don't understand.
Police have tased nearly 1.5 million suspects. According to Amnesty International, 485 have died afterwards.
The vast majority of those, there is a clear other cause of death. It includes people who died of a cocaine overdose. If you neck it down to the cases where there is legitimate scientific debate that the taser may have caused the death, we're talking about less than 20, over a decade.
In that same decade, Taser has run off all its competitors, established a virtual monopoly among law enforcement agencies, and is now pushing into the consumer market.
You know, our intent is to make a tool that protects life, and those incidents are tragic, but it's unfortunate and it happens.
Let's be fair about this. You're on a mission to save lives. You're also on a mission to sell tasers, correct?
That's true.
If your intent is to sell tasers, the more tasers out there, the better your business is. Why should we accept your statements on the safety of tasers?
You shouldn't. We're not impartial. We're not the experts. But the science is really pretty compelling that while tasers, we're not risk-free, but we take the most dangerous of situations and we make them safer.